Good afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday, December 19th session of the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly Delegates. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we will begin with a moment of silence to honor our troops who have died in service to our country and all those serving our country in the armed forces. And I would also like to add an additional moment for the young victims of the recent tragedy in Sandy Hook, Connecticut, which I'm sure you've all heard about. So, a moment of silence. Thank you, and we'll now stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will call the roll.
Richard Anderson.
Here.
Cheryl Andrews. Ronald Berstrom.
Here.
Leo Kukunis.
Here.
Christopher Canego.
Here.
James Killian.
Here.
Marcia King.
Here.
Teresa Martin.
Here.
Deborah McCutcheon.
Here.
Spiro Mitrakostas.
Here.
John Ullman.
Here.
Paul Pilcher. Patrick Princey.
Here.
Anthony Scalise.
Here.
Julia Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, we have a quorum present with 97.37% of the delegates present, 2.63% absent.
Thank you. I will now need approval of the calendar of business.
Move approval of the calendar of business for today.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You should have received the copy of the journal of December 5th, 2012. Are there any corrections to the journal? Hearing none.
Move approval of the journal for December 5th.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I have received notification from each of the commissioners individually that they will not be here today. They do indeed exist. I spotted them in the hallway earlier today, but Bill had some family business. Mary Pat is having some kind of thing for the victims, and also a celebration of someone who's receiving the Purple Heart Foundation. And also Sheila can't be here. So. Do we have any communications from public officials? Any communications from members of the public? Oh, I see a member of the public there. Please step up to the microphone. We know who you are, but please identify yourself.
Is this on? Yeah. I'm Jerry Roberts. Okay. I can hear it. I'm Jerry Rappaport from the League of Women Voters, and today I had sent to you the copies of the statement we made to the commissioners a week ago, just for clarity, since you've read about it other places. Today, our interest is to call our call to you for better communication between the commissioners and the Assembly of Delegates. The League has great respect for the members of the Assembly and for the commissioners as individuals with real dedication to their respective roles and effective government. Recently, we think there's been a breakdown in clear and timely communication. Today, we urge that there be a joint committee composed of representatives from the commissioners and the Assembly designated to discuss current avenues for communication, the sources of the breakdown, and then, most importantly, to develop new processes and pathways to enhance and foster both good working relationship and mutual respect between our two branches of county government. We realize that the charter delineation of powers sets some parameters, but in the interest of effective government, the League believes both branches need a fresh look and a fresh start so that information flows and concerns and knowledge of all the members of our elected officials are shared with each other. There will always be differences in opinions, but the free flow of ideas is essential to our democracy and serves the interest of all our citizens. And this is not to poke fingers or accuse anybody or any group, but just that in the interest of moving the government along, I think that's one way to help do it. If people got together and looked at what was happening, how it could be improved, despite the limits in the charter of your role especially, and the knowledge that you had, some way to bring the two together more effectively. And that's just simply what we wanted to suggest as one way to achieve that.
Thank you. Are there any other communications from members of the public? Hearing none, the Assembly will now convene. We begin with a committee report, Standing Committee on Natural Resources and Economic Affairs Joint Meeting, draft minutes. You want to take this, please?
Nice legal opinion.
Sure. Does everyone have a copy of it, please? Anyone else can jump in if you want to add to it. But basically, many of us have been contacted with questions about the ARC. It touched multiple different committees, so to look at what process or procedures you might want to use, we gathered together to talk to see if there was even a role that the Assembly appropriately had. After much discussion, everyone agreed it did indeed touch multiple committees. There did not appear to be a specific role the Assembly had to play. However, and Ron, you might want to let us know what came out of this. We would sort of formally write an offer to the commissioners, noting that we had interest, we had expertise, we had inquiries from people in our communities, and we would be more than happy to work with them on the issue and the questions.
Okay, well, we'll be doing that. So you decided that, in other words, if I remember, decided that you're going to suspend your meetings until you get a response.
We felt that was the first
Yeah.
step, and we needed an answer on that before we could make any other decisions.
And are there any other anybody from that committee would like to speak? Okay. We have a report from the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to remind everyone that you have mileage sheets in your individual folders. I would appreciate if you could please update them if you need to, attach them if you need to attach to them. Most importantly, sign them and return them to me before the end of the meeting when everyone exits the hall. A reminder about committee assignments. I still have a few individuals who have not gotten back to me. Specifically, I think I talked to the Bourne representative earlier, Provincetown, Dennis, Barnstable, and Brewster. I need to have your first three choices for committee assignments, so the speaker, whatever that may be, will consider that at the beginning of the year. And also a reminder that the next time we meet, I know not everyone will be here. We will have 2 new delegates, but I will give you a little bit of instruction in the next meeting packet, which you will get, I think it's somewhere around the 28th, 29th, 30th of December regarding the swearing-in ceremony, and that will take place on January 2nd. Other than that, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Under other business, the follow-up to the Assembly inquiry to the Commission regarding disapproval action taken against Ordinance 12-09 and 11-712. You probably received a copy of the communication which we sent to the Commissioner's office asking for a response. I should have had that sent under my signature, but unfortunately I didn't get into the office, so Janice signed it. In the future, I'm going to send it under my signature. The Commissioners, or I should say the Administrator, chose to respond by phone rather than giving us any official communication. We haven't had a letter. They just spoke to us, so that was their choice. They haven't been too quick to respond to other requests that we've made. Maybe it's the time of year, I don't know. But Janice, do you want to describe what Mark told you, or should I? I don't want to give a third hand. But well, maybe I'll just say their response was, and they probably read about it, is they routinely approve things after the meeting goes on. In other words, they bunch this request in with signing documents and other things, expenses and so on. it doesn't, it still leaves open the question of why those documents weren't specified in the agenda. But once again, the only response we got, which was by telephone, was that it was a routine practice. So with that, any other delegate like to bring this up or to speak to it? Leo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know you stated that to date you have not received anything in writing and you've only received a phone message or a phone conversation with our administrator. Do you anticipate a response in writing, or do you feel that this is the response?
Well, I think unless we pursue the matter again and ask for a written response, this is probably what we're going to get. As you probably know, some people have filed a complaint, an open meeting law complaint, which means they're probably going to have to provide a written response at some point anyway. You know, it's up to the Assembly. If you want me to send another one, I will, and ask them for a written response, but they seem reluctant to do that.
Thank you. Well, I'll leave that up to our colleagues to decide whether we want to move forward to ask a written response or not. I feel somewhat concerned that there is a routine that has been going on for some time in which items such as, I believe, this strong magnitude are done not in an open public forum. So my first question is, if in fact this is their answer, and I feel, and I want to say to cover the rights of the commissioners, that I'm assuming that this is going to be their answer, this verbal answer. With that said, my first response is I would like to have an indication over the past a minimum of 3 years of what items they feel are routine that can be signed not in a public forum and not with public discussion. The particular item that raised this concern, as I said in my previous comments, was we have gotten to this point through a magnitude of public input, not only from a MMA report that we paid for, but countless of open meetings with dedicated volunteers that looked at the structure of our government, who came forth with suggestions, and then quite frankly an open meeting in which we discussed it here and culminated in what we thought was the process that should be taken. And I go back to the language that they used in their letter, which I think is pretty strong, that this is not in the best interest of the towns and Barnstable County to do that. And if they feel that that is an action that requires, or I forget, the routine signing of a document, then quite frankly, I want to know what else is in that file, because this one's pretty big. And I think this one deserved public input. Whether they agree with their actions or not is irrelevant. I believe that the action itself should have been done in a public forum. So my first question is, what else is in that file? I mean, is it just filled with electric bills that should have been paid, or are there some other things that are going on that maybe deserve some public input that aren't getting it? I have a lot more on this, but that's kind of where I'm not really sure where to go from here. I think the public needs to be aware of the fact that this is our final session as the Assembly. The next time we meet will be a new a group, if you will. Now, many of us will be back, but some of us won't. I have a number of different areas and things I would like to do. I'm not sure if it's proper to wait until the new Assembly convenes or to talk about them now. I just have to gather my thoughts for a minute.
Anything else, Chris?
Yeah, if I could just try to distill this down, my understanding of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically it sounds like what they're saying is they chose to, as a 3-member panel, veto an action of the Assembly outside of the public meeting. And if that type of thing is a routine action, I think it would be prudent on our part to get that in writing, because it's almost, to me, like saying, well, we routinely ignore them.
Go ahead,
Requirements of the open
go
meeting
ahead.
law. So I would just prefer, rather than take a phone call on that, to say, really, you know, we need a written
Well,
response.
you saw the letter that we sent, we anticipated we'd get a response in writing, but unfortunately we didn't. But I think that in the future, whoever sits in this chair is going to have to communicate more officially under the letterhead of the Assembly of Delegates and request a formal response. It's a shame that we have to do that, but, you know, I agree with you. Calling us on the phone and telling us something, first of all, it puts me or whoever's here or Janice in a position of giving us information, you know, that may be second and third hand, we'd rather have it. Just while I'm saying it, I think there's no, my take on it, there's no doubt that they screwed up, all right? Now, I don't think there's any doubt that that was a mistake. Why it was made, we don't, I mean, I don't know why they did that. But we did have some discussions, and we were advised, I was advised, and also the clerk, that the action they took was official, all right, as it stands now, okay? So they vetoed our ordinance, we overrode their veto. However, violations that may have occurred during the meeting is something that could be brought up with the district attorney who's ever in charge of the open meeting law. So now they're, regardless of what we say, they have other powers to refer to. Now, how far we want to pursue this, I'm with Leo, it's a question of how far we want to pursue this. Do we want to have a working relationship with the commissioners and try to get them, you know, to recognize the proper procedure, or do we just take this as an insult and run with it? And, you know, I'm at the point now I don't know, and I'd have to, you know, talk to you guys.
Well, I guess all I'm saying is we asked for, we wrote them,
Yes.
we put down our thoughts on the matter, and I think it deserves a written response. I don't think a phone call is responsive at all, because that's to one or two people or whoever was on the phone, or if it's a conference call, and we asked it as a body, so I would prefer to get a written answer. Not as an insult or not as anything else, just the courtesy of a written response to a written question.
Anyone else on this? Yeah.
I think it's very hard to evaluate what our options might be until we see what they're willing to put in writing about this. I think this, I'm with Leo on the question of what else is being just sort of routinely approved and shoved under the rug and nobody knows about it. I'm not happy with that. But in this particular instance, I think we're being put to a position of perhaps deciding to make a complaint of violation of the open meeting law. I know that an action taken in violation of the open meeting law can be invalidated. Well, what does that mean in terms of this action? I'd like to have a written response before we evaluate that next question.
The charter said, my understanding is, when I looked into the charter, is if they do not act on an ordinance within 10 days, that ordinance goes into effect. So it's exactly the opposite happens in the federal government. You know, the president has a pocket veto, but under our charter, they have to act. If they don't act within 10 days, then the ordinance goes into effect. Now, if the action that they took is invalidated, to me, it would seem that means the ordinance would go into effect automatically. But, you know, that's a question of the county council. It's going to be in effect one way or another. So, do you have anything on this, John?
I actually like some clarification about the open meeting law. I know that I've been to several of the meetings and discussions, but I'm still not clear about the path that this open meeting complaint takes, the length of time it takes, and what the response will be. I think we need to know that to make an informed next decision as an assembly.
Teresa?
I just want to say, I think getting it in writing is really important, because regardless of what happens, how the decision was made and what path that follows, a written response to a body that's responded to through that body's administrator to this body's clerk is a certificate and not a very real response. So I think it's really important for us to have the response in writing so it keeps us doing the right thing.
Yeah, Pat?
I just want to say, you know, there's, so I'm going to turn this on. The written response is fine, you know, but, you know, the best way to go forward with this would to have our county commissioners right here with us, you know, more productive workshop, correspondence type of environment, whereas we can, if we hear something that we're confused about or might not understand, we can then ask questions. I mean, that ideally would be the best realm of communication, and since I've been serving on the assembly, it hasn't really, you know, I understand there has been an election and they've been busy trying to get elected and so forth, but next year is coming, so my hope is that, you know, we do have dialogues through these meetings twice a month with the commissioners, in addition to maybe a written response and stuff. If they were here, we could certainly get everything we need on the record and more so.
Anything else here? Yeah, Leo?
Thank you. I'd like to just make a motion that we ask the speaker to once again ask the county commissioners the action that was taken on the rejection of ordinance 12-09, and please respond in writing.
Second.
Okay, any other further comment on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll do that ASAP. We'll see how quickly we get a response. I should say that I talked to the chair of the commissioners today, and she reached out to me and suggested that coming in the first of the year, they would begin to move on some of the recommendations of the special commission. This is all, once again, in a conversation, and she also said that she would like to include members of the assembly in their deliberations. So I think that's certainly it's disappointing they don't hear today, but at least I think that there's some sentiment among the commissioners that they realize that, as the representative from the League of Women Voters said, it's time to mend some fences. I'm also wondering if we could ask for volunteers to attend their meetings. I mean, I don't think there's any one of us who could be there every Wednesday when they have a meeting, but we could try and see during the course of our meetings whether there's someone who could show up on a Wednesday and sit and we get a first-hand account of exactly what goes on there. So
The public or non-public ones?
the public ones. We can go to the non-public ones too, Leo, but I don't know if they will get invited.
I actually have a logistics question on that, because you know, most of us work and we have schedules planned in advance, and does anybody here know what their time of day schedule is? Because it seems to be kind of random.
No, it's not random, but it used to actually be either 9 or 11 in the morning on Wednesdays, but because they come here, when we have our meeting, they've actually moved their meeting to, I think, 2 to 4, so they come right from there. So on the Wednesdays that we meet, I believe they usually meet at 2. On the Wednesdays we don't meet, I think they either meet at 9 or 11, and that, is it 9:30? Okay, yeah, so that's what they changed because of that issue. So that helps a little bit if, on some of those.
Okay, is there anything else on this subject? Leo?
I'm sorry. I believe it's within the scope of the discussion. The charter under section 3-8 is the one that we are referring to in regards to action taken by this body, and then either a reaction declining that by the county commissioners, or in fact no action making it become, I don't want to say law, but come into fact. We did in fact pass a number of resolutions, and by the way, the charter does read every order, ordinance, resolution, or otherwise vote, so I feel it is covered. We did pass some resolutions back in September, 2 of which I'm very concerned about, 1206 and 1207. I feel that they are in place now, yet I don't believe the county commissioners have taken action on them, and I think that we may want to follow up on that and see that those are both at least completed. To remind you, they are the ones that asked the representative of the county on both CLC and CVAC to bring forward a bylaw review of both those organizations, and I think the other one was funding of those organizations. But again, I think at some point we need to start considering those and moving forward with them, because as I read the charter, they are in fact adopted now.
That's 12-06 and 12-07, you said?
06 and 07, resolution.
Resolution, so we'll follow up on that. Yes, Deborah?
I may not understand the situation, but, Mr. Speaker, do we have counsel available to us?
Yes, we do, but then we don't get an immediate response. And
Or do we have the right to pick one?
that's a subject that I would like to bring up in the budgetary discussions, or someone would bring up in the budgetary discussions, because there may be, and I've discussed this with the chair of the finance committee, there may be a time when we, through like any organization, need separate counsel when we have internal disputes with the commissioners or anything else.
Well,
With the county council, it might be, I've been in this situation before. Council's not a judge. He's not there to make decisions. He's there as an advocate. So sooner or later, he's going to have to figure out who he's going to back up and who he isn't. So if we have a discussion if we have a disagreement with the commissioners, I think that oftentimes we would need a separate counsel. But I mean, I'll defer to the lawyers in our group. We have a couple of
well, I think that that's in this context a little inappropriate, which is why I'm asking about counsel. I think one of the delegates asked what our legal remedies in the event down the road might be. And I think it's important to have counsel look at the charter and to look at the provisions of the open meeting law and to give us, I prefer a oral opinion, a written opinion, and then a discussion about it, so that the delegates can make an informed decision about what alternative they might be willing to pursue as we go down this road. I certainly think that we should not have the same counsel as would be advising the commissioners in that context. So I don't know. I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to be advising in that context the assembly. I don't think Mr. Canega would.
I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I'm saying that if let's say the commissioners, and I don't want to get too far into this, let's say the commissioners just ignored something. I mean, what options do we have? Yeah. But to be perfectly blunt, we sent them a letter. The responses we've gotten from council and from the administrator have been on the phone. Now, whether that's deliberate, whether it's done in a way saying, hey, we're going to handle this, and don't make a big, I don't know. And I agree with that. It's totally inappropriate. They should send us a letter. If council sends us an opinion, it should be written. In this case, they chose not to. It's only been 2 weeks since we sent this off. They chose not to. I think that's a mistake. We're going to have to ask specifically for written responses in the future. I anticipated we get one, but we didn't. So that's where we are.
Well, can we at least have, continuing discussion, have this on the agenda at our next meeting, or?
I will ask for a written response from Attorney Troy on the questions that have been brought up at this meeting. We've already gotten a response from him, but I'll have it written ready. The same with, we're going to also communicate with the administrator, Mark Zielinski, and have him give us his reasons under what procedure was this ordinance disapproved by the commissioners. Outside of going there and paying.
It would then be on our agenda.
Then it would be on, the response would be on our agenda, yes.
Great, thank you.
Any update on Eileen?
Okay. Appropriate dissolution to we have some other business here. 2 of our members are leaving us. One has already left us. I see Paul. He's probably deeply ensconced in Wellfleet politics right now. He's forgotten all about the assembly, and probably a good thing in his case. We're also losing the guy who started this whole thing rolling about a month and a half ago and is now bailing out before it all comes to fruition. And I'm talking about Spiro, the erstwhile representative from Yarmouth. We're going to, certainly was a presence, and believe it or not, I'm going to miss you, Spiro. I mean, we'd like to mix things up.
I'd like to point out that I've progressively gotten further away from the speaker's chair since I got here. So I'm sure you're going to miss me terribly.
And the next stop's the door.
Did you indulge a statement from the delegate from Yarmouth?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for your kind recognition. I will remind you, however, that a year and a half ago I proposed a budget amendment that would give us a part-time budget director to help us through the budget, which was roundly dismissed at that time as well. But this question has been going on for a while. I'm going to read a statement as opposed to making a swan song. The Assembly, I'm going to miss it. I'm leaving just as it's getting fun, I think. It's on the verge of taking its rightful place in the leadership and stewardship of the county. These most recent debates on the issues of ordinances, budgets directors, special commissions, quasi-county agencies reaffirms in my mind that the Charter intended that the Assembly be in the forefront of these county issues. I've been frustrated at times by the legislative process, but I've also felt rewarded by some of the outcomes. If I were to continue to serve in the Assembly, I would like to see several things taken up. I'd like to see monies that flow in and out of the county all be accounted for in the budget going forward. I'd like to see county personnel working only for the county and not other agencies. I'd like to see pay raises justified and not expected year to year. I'd like to see more scrutiny of benefits that are given to the county personnel so we all understand what the true cost of that labor is. And then I would demand that the Cape Cod Commission respect the role of the Assembly in the DCPC process rather than try to circumvent it. As the county begins to seriously address the biggest issues that lie ahead for us, that of wastewater, the Assembly should be sitting at the table. But doing so with this important distinction that we each represent residents of Barnstable County who happen to live in our towns and not the town itself. With the leadership provided by the Speaker, the Assembly can accomplish what the citizens of Barnstable County want from their regional government. You have the power to shape not only the budget, but the agenda. It's time to bring back into the realm of the Assembly not only the fiscal management of the county, but the direction of the county's future. 2 years ago, when I first started here, I had a sense of time in history because I first entered this room 28 years ago to meet with the CCP PETC director, Rod Robes, whose office Janice now occupies. And from that time on, I have been intrigued by county government. My service of the Assembly is just a natural extension for me of that interest. Although I will not be continuing in this capacity, I will remain involved, sometimes as an observer, sometimes as a participant, but always interested in Barnstable County. I wish you all Godspeed and good luck in your deliberations next year.
Thanks, Spiro. I can say personally that there's probably no one in this room or anyone in Cape Cod who believes for 1 minute that we're going to revert the last Spiro Costas. Maybe some out there hope we have, but I think they're going to be frustrated in that hope. So, is there any other business to be brought? Yes, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I find myself in a peculiar position because, once again, as I mentioned earlier, the Assembly, as far as I read the charter and understand it, is going to be entering a whole new session. I didn't think it was proper at this time for me to make any comments or ask that the new speaker, whoever it may or may not be, do things. So I'd just like to take a real quick moment to let my colleagues that are returning know that there are a few items that I'm going to be bringing forth when we get into our new session. One of them is it has been brought to our attention through the public that under our Charter, Article 7, there is a term of recall in one of the titles. I think we need to address that, and I'm hoping to do that as soon as we return. As I mentioned earlier, we have passed resolutions. I would like to see 1206 and 1207 carried through. I'm going to continue, and hopefully with the support of the new assembly, to find out on how this vote went on the 1209 ordinance. And I also intend on bringing forward, either by resolution or ordinance, my suggestions for the restructure of county government. I think we've waited long enough, and I believe that we need to start moving forward with this, and hopefully the county commissioners will follow our lead. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other business for Pat?
I just wanted to bring something up regarding, Leo mentioned it briefly regarding the enabling legislation, Article 7, and the word recall in there. And I know I talked with you and Janice informally, because I tried to do some research on my own and couldn't really come to a strong grasp as to what it actually means. There was a constituent that had brought it to my attention, and he had done a lot of research on it. I went ahead and did some, and I was wondering if they might have any information.
Do we have an official, did we have a written response from Troy on that? You would know. I think we have a response. We do. Quiet, tell me first.
Yes, County Council has determined that that word recall in the heading of Article 7 was there and should be removed and can be removed without any complicated process involved with any charter change. So it's a simple matter of, I'm going to prepare a memo to the Assembly, to the county commissioners, and to the county administrator, indicating that that word will be taken out and removed from the heading, because County Council has determined there's absolutely no reference to it at all in the charter. It's like a grammatical error. It just needs to be removed, but we need to memorialize it. So in the future, should someone else come along and say, hey, that word was there, now it's missing, what happened? And how were you able to do that? Was it legal? Yes, it is to simply remove it. So I will be taking care of that at the beginning of the new session.
And there was just one other thing
Sure.
I could mention. This coming Saturday at 12 o'clock, I'd like to invite everyone and hope that they could possibly show up to, it's a national day to from the Homeless Memorial. It's going to be held at 22 Main Street in Hyannis at 12 o'clock noon, and it will be a press conference with a lot of information on the current homeless issue here on Cape Cod, and particularly Hyannis. So hopefully some delegates could show up to that, and we would be welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes?
If I can add one more thing.
You still here?
In reference to Mr. Princey's question about the word recall, Article 7 of the Charter, I think he would be missing the point the constituent was trying to make, to remove the word from the language. I think the constituent's point is that there was a reference made to recall without any subsequent explanation. It is moot. My reading of the Charter was the same. The Secretary of State's reading of the Charter is the same. It renders it moot without having any additional explanation. But the idea was not to take out a pencil eraser and erase the word. The idea was to try to determine, should there be recall provision in the Charter or not? And I think this constituent's preference, and maybe the delegate from Barnstable's interest, is to see if we should be adding a recall provision to our Charter. In all fairness to those who might be opposed to that idea, there is no recall provision in the Massachusetts Charter either, so it tends to get a little confusing. But I think in many voters' minds there should be some recourse going forward if you would like to redress an election or an elected official.
Yeah, I actually took a point of calling the Secretary of State's office on this, and I was shocked to find out that a recall procedure is not mandatory. In other words, unless your town has one, you can't recall an elected official, which is, I just presumed that any elected official could be recalled under procedure, but that's not the case. So Spiro's point is well taken, and we can look into that. And Unfortunately, everybody who's looked at the charter since 1989 has missed that. So that's why we're here. So, anyway, are there any other business to be brought to the assembly? Anybody out there? Hello? Dick, you do your...
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to see you all across the street in a little while.
Just one thing.